Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 725 for the 18th of February. I'm going to start off with the frontline change. There is just slight frontline change over in the area of Robotyne from the information from geolocated videos. So there is some frontline change. The Russian forces, previously I have reported that they are attacking towards Robotyne, towards the west, in the western part of Robotyne. And in the latest geolocation, they are geolocated basically already considered inside of Robotyne along the highway. However, Ukrainian forces were geolocated around this major entrenchment. There is a major entrenchment around here, and it looks like the Ukrainians have regained control in this area after it was challenged by the Russian forces. It was like, in this gray zone, not sure who exactly is holding it. So based on the latest drone attacks videos, it seems like the Ukrainians have taken it, but the Russians were attacking north of it, which means that they will be encircled if they do not hold, if their friends, their colleagues, do not hold back the attack, and then they will get stranded. So this is the main frontline change over at Robotyne. And since we are already here, I can also talk a little bit more about the Robotyne situation. So, okay, let me, you know what, I got to draw this in case you don't get it. So, if the Russian forces continue to attack, and they manage to get some progress into Robotyne, this Ukrainian force will be encircled as the Russians will swing backwards. They will not be. They will have to go through hell to get out. So it will be, becoming their position will become more and more invalid, useless, and obsolete as this battle continues. So this is what I'm trying to say over here, since we are going to talk about Robotyne first. And in the bigger picture, in the wider picture, the Russian forces have also made some progress over on the western part of Verbove. They are putting pressure over at Verbove, northwest of Verbove. This is a push into Robotyne. They have basically almost lined up the entire western part of this settlement, and they are also attacking from the south. So even there is geolocation of these FPV drones. These video footages might be actually dated, and the Ukrainian forces may have already abandoned position because of this attack coming up from the north. So this is the strategic situation over at this Robotyne and Verbove region, where this is for those that are not aware of, or you have just only started watching the Ukraine war. This entire bulge or salient is actually where the Ukrainian major counteroffensive in 2023 managed to achieve. It isn't much. It's actually very little, and the Russians are now trying to erase the Ukrainians' progress or success over the past year. So this is putting a lot of pressure on the Ukrainians. If we zoom out further, this offensive has basically worried the Ukrainian command. Reinforcement has been ordered to Kharkiv, with the 116th Mechanized Brigade being ordered to bring calm and stability to the front line. And they are now still on the way to Kharkiv. It will take around 1 to 2 days, and they will be sent to the front to hold back the offensive that is currently developing over in this area here. The Ukrainian forces also started to mine Shebaki and Petikaki, according to the Russian sources. But clearly there should be mines already, but I think they are bracing for a much bigger attack. So maybe they are doing additional mining over at this region here. There is geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting attacked over at Stepnohirsk. So that's something showing Ukrainian presence over that position. And that's it for the Zaporizhzhia Front. If we move on over to the Kherson Front, since we kind of skipped it, the Ukrainian forces are still at Krinky. We have confirmation right now based on the information from the Russian sources. They claim that the Ukrainian forces are able to conduct a partial rotation of personnel, and there is airborne units being sent to the bridgehead. So whose airborne is that? Yeah, it's a Ukrainian airborne. I have never seen a Ukrainian airborne before. So yeah, so they have sent reinforcement further to Krinky to continue to hold this precious beachhead So yeah, it is what it is. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry continued to report about Russian attacks against their beachhead over in the southern part of Dnieper River. So this is one thing. There is another interesting geolocation, is the geolocation of this island. This is a military island, the Ostrov Maskiv. This island, this military island have already existed since World War II, and it's also known as Povomaisky. The geolocation of Russian shelling on this island shows that the Ukrainians actually have the island. So the Russians have this tongue over here of Porovsky, and the Ukrainians have this island. So there is this slight change in terms of the front line due to this geolocation. And there's further geolocation of Russian attacks. There's a Lancer attack on the M777 over in the northern part of Tyakhinka. And yeah, and clearly, of course, Lancet almost always hit their target and destroy it. So, Lancet is a freaking scary weapon. And for those that do not know, Lancets are suicide drones that have X-wing design, very, very unique. So, and then there is also destruction of Ukrainian forces at Inhulets, and then another attack over at Sadove. So, there is all these attacks happening, and again, all these units that is a situation around this area here are usually to support the actions over at the Krinky region. So yeah, this continued to be a very expensive investment from the Ukrainians. I really don't think it's very wise, because by the time the Russians decided to go on the offensive, they will be all out of equipment to actually hold back the Russians. So that's not good. Over at the Zaporizhzhia Front, I already covered. We move into the Donetsk Front. So this is the Donetsk Front. At the Donetsk Front, there is reports of Russian attack over at Uruzhaine. So I think this is it. This is the only report of the fighting at Uruzhaine. Information coming from the Russian Defense Ministry, and there is geolocation of Russian conducting airstrikes on Staromayorsky. So we'll continue to monitor to see what the Russians are going to do in this area here. Is usually not exactly clear. And we move on the entire front line along Voleda, Zolota Neva region. This is Zolota Neva, this is Voleda. There's nothing happening over here. So we move on over to the Marinka sector. The Russian forces are attacking Georgievka or Hyuhivka at Bojeda or Bojeda. And also at Novo-Mikhailivka. The situation at Novo-Mikhailivka went very quiet. They supposedly are inside the town or the settlement, but if they are fighting inside the settlement and there's no news, means that the Russians may have withdrawn out of the settlement because maybe they are unable to hold a position. It's very similar to the situation over at Marinka. In the Battle of Marinka, the Russian forces, despite having a very advanced frontline positions, they are usually not there. The actual lines is actually much more in the rear positions, because these are no man's land, and I suspect this is the situation at Novo-Mikhailivka. The Russian forces, even though they can attack in, they may not be able to entrench due to heavy fighting and certain death. Geolocation at Yugivka of Russian artillery hitting Ukrainian positions, showing Ukrainians are actually still holding the front line pretty decently. And we move on away to the Avdiivka Front. So the Battle of Avdiivka, of course, Battle of Avdiivka city is over, but the Battle of Avdiivka as a front line is still not over. The Russian forces have finished its rest, that one day rest, and the fighting has been resumed outside of the Avdiivka city. Fighting is being reported over at Novobakhmutivka, over at Lashtoshkiny, Pervomaisky, as well as Nevelsky. Ukrainian forces counterattack over at Nevelsky. Interestingly, after all these rumors about the Ukrainian forces withdrawing out of Lashtoshkiny, fighting is still being reported there. In fact, everyone is saying that the fighting is at Lashtoshkiny. Ukrainian sources, Ukrainian Defense Ministry, as well as Ryba, the Russian sources, all talk about it. Ryba still mentioned that fighting is taking place on the outskirts of Lashtoshkiny, where the Ukrainians hastily retreat. So did they retreat or did they fight? This is ridiculous. So no, you can't say that they fight and they retreat. You retreat, you're not there, you can't fight. So this is a bit weird in terms of this information. I don't like it. I personally don't like it. So you just admit that despite retreat, there are still forces, still staying at Lashtokine holding the back line. Something like this is a bit more interesting. So there is a MLRS shelling over at Lashtokine being geolocated just along the road. And there is over at Avdiivka, there is also a Russian airstrike happening over in the rear position. So the Russians are seemingly not slowing down, given the fact that they are still attacking currently. And this is not a very typical Russian thing to do. Over this course of war, every time Russia have a big capture, they tends to slow down a bit by a lot. So the fact that they only rest for 1 day and then started to attack out of the Avdiivka success is interesting. And there is also a geolocation of Ukrainian tank getting destroyed over at Stepove. So this also shows that the Ukrainians have no intention of just running away. They are holding the line as per I originally expected. Just that I didn't expect them to give up the coke plant. I think this is probably Ukrainian forces running away against the command, against orders, and I think something is going to happen to them. Because the holding the coke plant just makes more logical sense than giving it up. Giving it up, then the Russians have a strong base of operation for them to operate out from this area here. So yeah, I think someone must have screwed up on the Ukrainian side to allow this to happen. And that's all from the Avdiivka Front. We move into the Niu-York Front. There's no reports of fighting over in this area here, which might be a good signal or indication that the Ukrainian attack over at Sumy, Pivdene, and New York was purely a diversionary attempt to help to elevate the situation over at Avdiivka. But we shall continue to monitor. As I mentioned before, Ukrainian attack towards Kharkiv is going to be going to take a lot more resources. Whatever attack they are sending in, those small squads are not going to take Kharkiv. Kharkiv is as big as Avdiivka, so it's not it's not going to be easy. So anyway, we move into the Bakhmut Front. So this is Bakhmut city, and in the southern flank of the Bakhmut Front, the Russian forces continue their offensive over at Klishchiivka and Andriivka. Geolocation, there's some slight change in terms of the front line. It's nothing much. It's basically just Ukrainian forces geolocated on this road, showing that they should have control over this entire plain, this open ground, rather than the previous mapping that the Russians was actually cutting off these two sides. So yeah, it's just a small change, not super important. Over in the northern flank, the Russian forces is still being reported to be attacking in the Bodanivka region and also at Ivanivsky. So, and there is some alleged closing up of the front line. Is not much, so I don't think there is much thing over the Ivanivsky region. There is Ukrainian being attacked by FPV drone and multiple launch rocket systems along the road towards Chasivya. Is not very significant just yet. We'll definitely continue to monitor and see how the situation in the Ivanivsky region unfold. In this area here unfold. I think this is going to be the next major battle. We shall continue to see how this goes. We move into the Siversk Front. At the Siversk Front, Russian forces are attacking the Luhansk Bilohorivka. They are also attacking towards the southeastern part of Vimka. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry, by name, southeast of Vimka, they are the one that's saying this is currently happening. So they are acknowledging the Russian push in this area here. So that's interesting. And if the Russians continue to just hit down this railway line towards Siversk, Ukrainian forces over at Sprny and Ivano-Derivka is going to be in deep trouble. So we will continue to see how this progress over in this Siversk Front. Over at the Kreminna Front, this is Kreminna city. The Russian forces are attacking Terny, Yampolivka, Torske, and Dibrova. This is a continuation of the previous offensive, the previous report reported information of the Russian push. This attack is reported on both sides. The Russians and the Ukrainians are both reporting that the Russians are making this advance over the Kreminna Front. How big is this offensive is currently unclear just yet. The open source intelligence have not talked about this much tentatively, because again, due to the overloading of information about Avdiivka. So we will continue to monitor. I think we might see more things over the next few days. And we move further up north, nothing over at the Siversk Front. This Siversk Front, there's nothing. We move into the Kupyansk Front. So this is Kupyansk city, and this is the Kupyansk Front. At the Kupyansk Front, Russian forces have started some kind of offensive in this area here. There are some people predicting that there's a possibility that the Russians may start the new offensive over in the Kupyansk Front, although we do have already clear evidence the Russians have started at the Kharkiv sector of the Zaporizhzhia Front. The Russians are attacking over at Sinkivka, they're attacking towards Petropavlivka, they're attacking Ivanivka and Tabaivka. So this is the strategic situation over this area here. However, I wouldn't be so bullish about Russians' intentions in these front lines, because they are very comfortable in these front lines, and this is extremely uncomfortable for the Ukrainians to hold a position, because they have to cross the Oskil Bridge. This is a river, and they have to cross the river to resupply all the front lines, and these front lines are extremely far away from the western border with Poland. And so any supplies and reinforcement and the training of soldiers, reinforcement coming all the way to the Kupyansk Front is super far. It stretches logistic. There is no reason for the Russians to reduce the logistical length of the Ukrainians. So I believe that the Russians will continue to hold position over here to create more difficulties for the Ukrainian operation, and then I think they will focus something more closer to the Ukrainian borders with the western countries, probably the Zaporizhzhia Front. I believe that will probably be where the main focus will be, or could be the Voleda Zolotaneva line. And I think the Donetsk Front and Zaporizhzhia Front makes a lot more sense. I think Kupyansk Front is a perfect place just to keep the Ukrainians super stretched. And so I talked a little bit more because I didn't want to do a conclusions today, because I want to cover some other stuff, some news stuff. Anyway, over the Kharkiv Front, there is geolocation of Russian artillery operating over at Boshchova. So there is shelling being reported near Boshchova, and this is near the border region between Russia and Ukraine. This continues to be continued softening up operation of the Ukrainian defenders over in the Kharkiv Front. Tentatively, no indication of the Russians is going to invade through the Kharkiv Front just yet. And anyway, like I mentioned before, it is better to just keep the Ukrainians super stretched in terms of the logistics. They will have to send stuff far away, and then you just attack here. And then they're going to get very confused what to do. They're going to have to push forces down, but then they still need to resupply there, that kind of thing. So this is just a logistical war that the Russians are playing. So, and finally, there is another Russian plane getting shot down. A Sukhoi 34 was shot down over eastern Ukraine. So this is the fourth fighter jet that was reportedly or allegedly shot down over Ukraine since the fall of Avdiivka. Thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next update.